Hello, everybody. This is JD. Like many of you, I watched the Tony Awards last night, and it was two things that kind of left a lasting impression on me. One was this jerk jumping around, yelling, "I'm gay," something gay, I'm gay, I'm gay, whatever. I don't know. I couldn't hear half of what he was saying, but it came across like a kids show, a little tiny kids show where they try to do the ABCs and stuff that used to when I was younger, I'd get up and walk away from. My mother said I never did like some of the kids shows, and when he started doing things like this guy was doing, it's very irritable. Because truth of the matter is, I really don't care if he's gay. Okay, so he's gay. Fine, that's dandy. That's his preference. I'm heterosexual. How would you feel like if I jumped in front of TV? It is, I was yelling, "I'm heterosexual. I'm heterosexual." No, you don't need that. And then the second thing was they had a wedding, and they had all these people that they were showing, kind of centering them on certain groups. But really, what I saw there was like sometimes they do in the Orient, like one day in June or something, they get hundreds of people together, and they all get married. And that's what I was looking at. And it got me thinking, why is the federal government so tied up with gay marriages? Can't they realize something? First, let me get something out of my register. Okay? I just want to get something out. What I got out of the register, if you look at it real close, yes, it's a quarter. United States quarter. See? The other side. Okay. Actually, it's a real old one because it's got the eagle on the back. We're going to need this in a little bit. So, it got me thinking. So I went to my little Heritage Foundation constitutional book, which I highly recommend everyone use. Go on the internet, type in heritagefoundation.com, and have them send you a free copy of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. You read it. Don't let anyone else read it for you. Don't let anyone else interpret it. Matter of fact, for me to get my printout on the First Amendments and everything, I had to go through several because there's all kinds of interpretations. I don't need someone to tell me what to think. That's one of the problems we have with our government, is that there's too many people telling you how to think. No. Get the Heritage Foundation copy of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. You read it. You think about what it's saying. Because if I was to ask you all right now, what is the First Amendment about? Most of you will jump up and say, freedom of the press. Whoop, 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 whoop. Nope, people. No, it's actually about much more. It's actually, the First Amendment is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different things. And it covers everything from complaining about the government to your religious beliefs. That's in the First Amendment. I deliberately did it in reverse order. But what does this marriage thing that we've seen on the Tonys have to do with the First Amendment? Probably more than you ever realized. You see, what we need to end this discussion once and for all is for one church, one established religion, one established opening, just one. Doesn't matter if it's Oriental, if it's Asian, if it's European, if it's Middle East, doesn't matter if it's South American, it doesn't matter. Just one recognized organization, religious organization, to get up and say, we recognize and marry both genders of the opposite genders, as well as genders of like. In other words, same-sex or opposite-sex marriage. And we marry them and ordain the marriage. Now, why do we need just one church to do that, or synagogue, or mosque, or temple, or any other way? Because what is written in the Constitution in the First Amendment, and the way it is written, what it says is, Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise therefore. So what does that mean? That means if we get just one organization to say that they freely exercise marriage among the same gender or opposite genders, our government can't say anything about it one way or the other from that point on. It shuts their mouth. That's the very beginning of the First Amendment. I'm going to read you the whole First Amendment. Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise therefor, or abridging the freedom of speech. That's the second most important thing. Or of the press. That's third. Or the right of the people to peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. All that's in the First Amendment. That's why if you want to get together and march, as long as you do it peacefully, you really do not need permits. Because Congress can't do it. Now the states, they might have different regulations and everything. It's left up to the states. But Congress can't. Because the Constitution says they can't. They can't impede the right of the people. Or abridge the freedom of speech. Or the press. Or the right of the peaceable to assemble. People to assemble peaceably. Yep, that's right. They can't abridging it. No abridging. No way to hinder it. But that ain't what this is all about. This is only about the first part. Now there's a little problem, though. Yes, we get a church that says they believe in marriage of single genders. Personally, this is my personal belief. I'm kind of like against it. But I will tell you this, two of my best friends in my neighborhood, Bob, whose name is actually Robert, and Jeff, I think his name is Jeffrey. They've been together for a long, long time. How they live inside their house and what they do inside their house is their business. I do not have the right to go and say, oh, you're living in sin, you shall be condemned to hell. All that. That's not my right. Because if I do that, I am judging. And God doesn't want us to judge others. He wants us to live as an example. So I'm not going to go and tell them, condemn you, go to hell, because that's where I'll end up, by doing that judgment. Now in my house, it's different. I have my wife, and of course I have my daughter. And you all know my stance on abortion. I'm not going to tell you, no, you can't have an abortion. But I do believe that because there's so many people who are strongly against it in this country, that taxes should not be used to pay for abortions. And that we do not have the right to force abortions on to anybody, as well as we do not have the right to force not to have abortions on to anybody. What we do have the right is you can't separate the money from one group to the other. Now speaking of money, remember that quarter? I'm talking about marriage again. If I hold that quarter up so you can look at it, whose face is on that quarter? Think for a few minutes. Whose face is on that quarter? There's a reason I used a quarter instead of penny, because penny would be Lincoln's, right? And then dime would be Jefferson's. You know, Kennedy's got his $50. This face is Washington. Yes, Washington's face is on the quarter. Why is this so important? Because I'm going to tell you, render unto Washington what is Washington's, and render unto God what is God's. Paraphrasing somebody, ain't I? Yes, I am. Jesus. He held up a coin to ask whose face, and that was Caesar's. Well, I'm doing a little different. Mine has got Washington. Now, how does that come in with this marriage? Well, we have this little problem. You see, marriage is God. That's love. That's something that can't be seen. That is something within two people. And no government has a right to cross over that line. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But the federal government, state government, city government, they got taxes, and they want the most from you. But they have to respect the wishes of the people. Now, here's what happens. Two single people living in the same household pays all kinds of taxes, but a married couple pays less. Well, the government don't want that. So they'll fight this next part. But the government should be issuing certificates of union. What is a certificate of union? Basically a marriage permit. You get the certificate of union, it declares that A and B shall become a couple down the road, and as such shall have benefits as a couple. Doesn't matter whether, couple does not mean different genders, does not mean anything but two. That's right, it means two. It's all couple, two. I want a couple glasses of wine, that means I want two. I want a couple cars, that means two. I want a couple dollars, that means two. I want a couple million, that means 2 million. I sure could use them. But couple means two. And as such, they would have benefits within the state, federal government, and local community. Now, who you take that certificate to will decide what happens. You take it to the judge acknowledges the certificate, endorses it, and you are a legal binding couple. Means everything one owns, the other owns. And believe me, in some states, it goes this way. Everything one owns, the wife owns. And on and on and on. You listen to different divorces, especially those that make the news. But that makes a legal binding couple. Or you could take it to a religious organization, and once they endorse it, it still gives you the same rights as the couple. The religious organization gives you the marriage certificate, and you have the union. Now, when you get a divorce, it dissolves that union, that civil union. That's what it dissolves. And you go each other's way. If you don't believe me, you use the Catholic religion. How many Catholics get divorced? The Catholic Church, they got married in the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church don't recognize the divorce. So they've never been unmarried according to the Catholic Church. But the state says, oh, they're divorced, they're separated, we split up their property. That's it. They have no ties to each other. See what I'm saying? Think about that. That's what this is all really about. I want you all to understand that. I want you to understand really why this is important. We have to get the federal government out of keep crossing over that line. It keeps wanting to cross over the line into our, quote, unquote, establishment of religion, or prohibiting free exercise. Therefore, establishing or free exercise, it keeps crossing over that line. Now, how good is that? Not very good. It's very bad. I could stand and write books upon books about how separation of church and state and why it is important. Or you can read books upon books of Thomas Jefferson's writing, a separation of church and state and why it's important. But you don't need to, people. None is. Because all you got to do is remember a little bit of your history. Spanish Inquisition, that's when the state got involved with religion. You know, some of you go to the bar and you have this drink called the Bloody Mary. Why is there a drink called the Bloody Mary? Oh, that's in the English history when Queen Mary of Scots became queen and she got religiously involved. Well, there's state and religion again. And then after her, Edward did the same thing. So, I mean, the poor English people, they were going from one religion to the other, executing everybody. But that's what's happening. But you don't even have to go to your history books. You got to do that. See the terror of when church and state is not separated. Turn your TV on and listen to the news. Listen about the Middle East. Listen about the bombings. Listen about the children being killed. Listen about the civilians being killed. Listen about all the terrors that are going on, because it's nothing more than one type of religious group against another trying to control the government. And that is what happens when you have church and state mixed. We don't need that in this country. Me as president, that will not be. It will not even be tolerated. Now, what will be is this. For example, if your town, for their courthouse, wants to put 10 Commandments out, but you have people that are atheists and don't believe in God, well, then the first 3 commandments won't be written. They will be etched, 1, 2, and 3. And then every one after that will be written, because that's what the law is based on. Marriage, that's between you and God, not the state or the federal government. If there's a church that accepts it and will marry you, so be it. It's not for me to judge. Believe me, it's not for me to judge. That's for God to judge. All I ask is that you give me the respect that I will give you. Don't make me have to have something dumb and stupid flaunt before my face, like on the Tony Awards, with that one guy jumping up. I know what's good. I know what's bad. Give me the same respect that you expect, whoever you are, one way or the other. That's the most important thing we need to put back into our government. I will speak only the truth to you, but the respect to each other must be given, must be accepted, and must be there. Doesn't matter who you are, but if you respect each other, how you live your life in your home is your business. How you live the life on the public street is everybody's business. That's what I'm saying. Found nothing wrong with that marriage ceremony at all. Reminded me of the ones I've seen on TV with the Asian countries. Exactly the same thing. Hundreds of people, even 1,000 people, couples together that loved each other, being married. And the federal government doesn't belong there. The Constitution says all we need is one church to say, I will. Our established church will marry any couple, either the same gender or opposite gender. It does not matter in the eyes of God. That's what must be there. And then Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise therefore. As far as property, things you can touch, you know, like the walls of the house, the car, the land, the trees, the furniture inside, money, anything that you can touch. Remember whose face is on this quarter? Yep, Washington. And that's where a certificate of union among two people, a couple, and should specify a couple, and then we'll get the benefits and privileges as Washington dictates, equally and fairly. Because remember the first time I did this, I told you of an incident I've seen a long time ago. I was young, and I was wondering why this old lady was crying. And I asked her, and she said her very best friend that she had lived with for so many years was dying, and she couldn't do anything. And I asked why. She said she needed this operation, but they wouldn't let her make a decision because she was not a relative. But if a certificate of union would have been there, she could have made a decision. Luckily, they were able to find a distant cousin or something in time to save the lady's life, I think. I don't even truly remember that. But I remember seeing her sitting there crying. Now, they weren't gay as far as I know. They weren't. They both dated men, but they never married. And I believe they both were teachers. But that's neither here nor there. Actually, I've told that story so many times I don't even know if it's real, but I seem to kind of remember. So bottom line, people, is gay marriages. Once the church says, I will marry any couple that's either of like gender or opposite gender, under God, or with the blessings of God, it's no longer can be discussed in our federal government. We need to get our federal government out of our personal lives and into the governmental life of running this country. It cannot happen without your help. I, JD, presidential candidate for 2016, is telling you this. Our government needs your help. And we together can make the difference in all the world. But that will be us together. So now you know my stance on gay marriage. Let there be a church to say that they will marry. More power to you. And that's where I stand. Whether I agree with it or not, it's not mine to choose. That's to be judged by God and God alone, and not me. And remember, I must keep, like this quote says, render unto Washington what is Washington's, and render unto God what is God's. And never, and I mean never, shall the twain mix. And that I must keep. And I must keep my promise to each and every one of you to bring your voice to Washington, D.C. Thank you. Have a nice night. Remember, I am running for president. It's up to you, not me, to make it happen. I already proved I can do the job. I already proved to you we can win. Remember, all my votes that disappeared. Well, all we got to do is combine all together and be of such a large number they can't hide it, no matter what they want to do. And we shall win. Thank you. This is JD.